Hey friends, did you know that you can get a fully managed storage area network or SAN on Azure? You can scale up to millions of IOPS, that's input output operations per second, and double digit gigabytes a second of throughput. Katherine Lu is here to show me how it works today on Azure Friday. Hey friends, I'm Scott Hanselman and it's Azure Friday. Hey Katherine, how are you?
Hey Scott, I'm great. How are you?
I am very well. I am excited to learn about big stuff in the cloud. And there's nothing bigger than a SAN, a storage area network. And I feel pretty fancy because I have a NAS, a network attached storage, with I think about 27 terabytes over in the closet over here. But this is way bigger than that, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I think a SAN is usually used on premise, and it's for very large. It's a very large storage option. So we're very excited to that we got to introduce the industry's first fully managed SAN in the cloud with Azure Elastic SAN.
And fully managed literally means that I think less about it. Like I'm always thinking about like if one of those disks goes bad, I even have a hot swappable spare. I'm thinking about the health of my SAN when I really just want to think about the business problem, which is storing all my stuff.
Exactly. And like for with our Elastic SAN, we made that management very simple by using a resource hierarchy that's very easy to use. You can do this all through the portal or PowerShell, whatever is easier, especially if you're already used to using resources on Azure.
Very cool. Well, let's take a look at your slides and give me a sense of how this fits together.
Yep, absolutely. So, right, last year we did introduce Elastic SAN at public preview. It basically, we combined the on-premise SAN-like capabilities that you may be aware of already with the benefits of like being in the cloud. So we support a resource hierarchy very similar to an on-prem SAN, as you can see here. And we mainly created this for customers who need to provision large amounts of storage and achieve really massive scale. So Elastic SAN offers millions of IOPS and double digit throughput, like you mentioned. But a little bit more about like the resource hierarchy. You can see our top level is the SAN itself. And then right below that is where the management kind of happens. So at the volume group level, you can group volumes together and apply different configurations like security configurations, networking configurations, and data protection. And then at the bottom, we have the actual volumes themselves. So we
Interesting. And then, sorry, I was going to say this is using industry standard protocols, right? Like iSCSI is a
Yes.
standard thing. It's not an Azure made up thing.
Yes, exactly. So we do our data access through iSCSI. It is an industry standard industry protocol, so it's already on. It should be out of the box ready on Linux and Windows services. So you should be ready to go. Don't have to download anything new.
Very cool.
So we created Elastic SAN to kind of tackle like a few major customer pain points I'll kind of go over very quickly. So the big one is obviously costs, especially when you have a lot of storage. A lot of customers obviously want to keep costs pretty low. Um, if you use other block storage options, you can, they usually have like a dedicated performance target per individual volumes. So like your resources cannot be shared across all of your volumes. We wanted to let you share the provision performance that you already have on your Elastic SAN across all the volumes that you have. So whatever performance you provision at the top on SAN, you can share against all the volumes that you already have.
So it seems like the whole thing is about simplicity, right? Like provisioning is a hassle, managing individual disks is a hassle, thinking about consistent performance across things is a hassle. You're removing all of those hassles.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to make this as easy as possible, especially when you have like a lot of different workloads. So you don't have to manage like individual disks or individual volumes on other types of block storage options if you have a lot of different workloads that you run. Yeah, so that's kind of another pain point. So if we don't really have a single block storage offering right now that works on different compute options, usually we've seen like block storage options like this kind of be locked down to virtual machines only. But now we can leverage like virtual machines, containers, and then soon we'll also include Azure VMware.
Very cool. So this is going to work with any compute option. It's going to use standards that have been around for 20 years, like iSCSI. It's going to make it very transparent. And from the point of view of the user of the storage, they just have more storage and at a great price, and it's very fast.
Exactly. Yeah. And we also wanted to make it easy for on-premise or users that are not already in Azure to be able to migrate to Azure. So we also will have a free migration program for those customers that are looking to move into Elastic SAN. Well, I would love to show you this in action, and we can create our own. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started by creating a brand new Elastic SAN. So you can do this through the portal, which is, again, very easy. So you can add your details in here, but what I wanted to kind of highlight right here is how we kind of provision Elastic SAN and what provisioning options that you have. So we actually have two different units that you can kind of provision on. Provisioning units. So we have a base unit, which will include both your capacity and your performance numbers. And then we also have a capacity only unit where you can only provision your capacity. This is obviously at a lower cost, so there's some level of flexibility here.
And there's a direct relationship between the initial base size and then the IOPS that you're going to end up getting?
Yes, exactly. So we can see 1 terabyte at the moment will scale to 5,000 IOPS and then 80 bandwidth. So it kind of scales that way. And then let's say you only have a very low performance target, you can kind of provision, let's say, the 50 terabytes here and hit your performance target. And then if you need an actual 100 terabyte SAN, you can provision 50 more terabytes just in the base unit. And it'll be about 20% lower in cost.
Interesting. So initially there, when we came into this page, you had 100 as the base
Mm.
and then 50 as additional, and you could flip that if you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And it will be a lot cheaper, but you'll still hit like your capacity target and then, have some flexibility in terms of how you want your performance target to scale.
That is flexible. Nice.
So if we move on, you can actually create your volume groups out of the box here as well. We have one created already. I just want to show you kind of the networking options that we have. So you can set up a VNet using service endpoints. And then we also have private endpoint support. But I'll go ahead and skip over that as well. And then lastly, you can provision your actual volumes here. And similar to how we're provisioning like the size and looking at the performance of the SAN itself, you'll be able to kind of customize how large you want your volumes. But I do want to note the performance of the volume, how it kind of scales. It scales linearly with capacity, similar to the SAN. However, we kind of designed the scaling factor to be really high so that you don't need to worry about the performance too much. So you can reach the max performance target here at just about 100 gigabytes. But that is basically how we kind of provision a SAN. So I will go ahead and skip over to how we connect our SAN volumes to a client. So this is a created SAN that we've already created. I will go ahead and skip to where our volumes are at. So how we kind of start this connection process, we can select a volume that we have and then select the connect option here. So today we'll be connecting our volume to a Windows VM client. So I will go ahead and select Windows right here. And then we actually allow you to run either single session or multi-sessions to every Elastic SAN volume, which is kind of based on your application's performance requirements. We default this experience to a multi-session connection just because we recommend that. It just works a lot faster and usually achieves the higher IOPS and throughput that you're kind of looking for.
Right. So these are multiple sessions connecting to a single target, thereby getting you better throughput and better performance.
Yes, exactly. But again, if you wanted to do a single session, maybe just for testing or something like that, you can also find that in our documentation, the code for that. So I'll kind of run through what this code is actually doing. So we, again, wanted to streamline this connection process to be as easy as possible. So all the checks and the actual code to run the connection will happen here. So at the top, we kind of do our checks for the iSCSI initiator and multipath IO, which is what we need for running the multi-session. Again, the iSCSI initiator, if you're running on Windows or Linux, it should already be there because it kind of comes out of the box. So, but these just kind of do that check that you need to.
Right, right. And that I want to point out, if you scroll up just a smidge, there's that one specific line there where you say get feature multipath IO feature Windows Server. If you have access to the UI, you can go into Windows features and turn on multipath IO. You're doing that programmatically, which means I just need to copy paste the script and I'm going to be all set up quickly.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So if we kind of scroll down, we also bring in, this is kind of the important bit of the script, how we connect this particular volume to your client. So we already pull in the volume details. So you can see right here, we have like the volume name, the IQN and host name. And then here we default the number of sessions to 32. But again, you can change that if you need to. And then the bottom just shows the two scripts that kind of run for the connection. So we have our add target and then our login target. But let's go ahead and copy this and move over to our VM to actually run it. So it is just as easy as pasting the script and then running it. So let's go ahead and do that.
Now, certainly copy pasting scripts directly from anything is a little bit of a demo move. Folks should certainly familiarize themselves with the scripts and how they work as we were fast forwarding a little bit here. Now, is this a persistent thing? Is this going to persist reboots? I'm going to have the connection to this SAN now permanently, or does this need to run every time I reboot?
So this should be persistent. So it will just be, the sessions should just be active. You can, if you need to disconnect them, we also have the disconnect option, which is a very similar experience. It'll be a different script, and then you can kind of disconnect them when you need to.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that is, let's go ahead and check to make sure all of our sessions are there. So we see all 32 sessions were created, and then here are just some of the details of those if you guys are interested. But that is basically how we kind of create a SAN and then set up the connection to a very simple client.
So how would I get started with this? You made a 100 terabyte drive very, very quickly. You connected to it very, very quickly. That means that the audience or myself could do the exact same thing right now.
Yes, absolutely. So we recommend if you want to get started with Elastic SAN, we have all of kind of some how-to guides to create, provision, deploy an Elastic SAN, set up the networking, and do some basic connections to different sort of clients. And you can all kind of find that in the Elastic SAN documentation right here. And yeah, they should have all the guides and steps and things like that and scripts, and then some, other additional information.
So it's available in preview now. Folks can check it out right now. There are some limitations in some regions that it's not available, but I assume you all want feedback. So if we start using this, we can go and give feedback to the team about our experience using Azure Elastic SAN.
Yep, absolutely.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you, Scott. This was so much fun.
I have been learning all about this new fully managed storage area network, Azure Elastic SAN, today on Azure Friday. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Azure Friday. Now I need you to like it, comment on it, tell your friends, retweet it. Watch more Azure Friday.